And welcome to space. Welcome to daily space weather video number 2 of 3. We've been doing 3 per day to shorten up the content and compartmentalize it. So the first thing we're looking at here are 4 hours of magnetohydrodynamic pressure. There is a forecast for geomagnetic unrest here, and also on February 1st, a geomagnetic storm caused by a coronal mass ejection. Make sure you watch our previous video for details about that. Coming late in the day on January 31st, early in the day on February 1st. Next, looking at the polarity of the heliospheric current sheet. Earth is in a south pole current sheet shown here in red. Here are the GOES magnetometers over the past 3 days. Some spikes there as some plasma is arriving, prompting the NOAA warning for geomagnetic unrest. And here's another view of the heliospheric current sheet from the line of sight perspective. Quite a bit of magnetic activity going on there in the form of sunspots. We've got 4 massive groups at the moment, and 3 of those 4 massive groups are beta class. Likelihood of solar flares way up as a result of that. Next to line of sight coronal hole plot, you see this magnetic tuft just moving through the Earth-facing zone here. That's the sun's B field. The blue lines there. The B field being the field that goes through the magnet, this magnet being the sun. Great National Sunspot Observatory data there showing transequatorial coronal holes of both the North Pole and South Polar orientation. Let's take a look at it visually using 193 angstroms from the SDO. You can see that South Pole oriented coronal hole here rotating into the earthly zone, in between a series of huge sunspots. We'll take a look at that next. Sunspot 2936, 2939, and soon to be named Sunspot 2940 are the most interesting portions of the closest star. So here you can see very high level of solar flare probability. We've got some spectacular imagery for you here. Here's a close-up of Sunspot 2936. That's 1700 angstroms. That's just extreme UV wavelengths. And here's AR 2936 in magnetogram. Remaining mostly stable here over the past 24 hours. Interestingly enough, 2 major groups have just risen over the east. Make sure you check our previous video for additional footage of that, and the one after this. We've been putting out 3 space weather videos. To keep the times a little bit shorter here, folks, there's Sunspot 2939. Here are its fields. And we do see some evolution of fields there. Could be another sunspot forming to its south as well. We'll have to keep an eye on that. And when I say eye on, pardon the pun. Here's what will be named Sunspot 2940. It's also quite complex. You can see it's crackling with some flaring there, those bright areas indicating some flaring happening from that new Sunspot 2940 will be the name. Here are the magnetic fields, and you do see a little bit of evolution there of the magnetic fields as well. Just spectacular imagery here from the Solar Dynamics Observatory. I think it's my favorite telescope. Let us know what your favorite telescope is in the comments. So no major flares here since late in the day on the 29th. We saw an M-class flare. We did see some minor spikes in the proton flux, likely caused by this flare over here, the one that occurred at 3:50 a.m. this morning. Oh, maybe not. Those occurred at around the same time, so it must have been from a previous flare there, most likely, folks. Just a minor spike in the proton flux, nothing to write home about or cause significant radio blackouts. And looking at the real-time solar wind, we see a continued elevated coronal hole high-speed stream here. So having just dropped off a little bit, current conditions are about 490 kilometers per second for the solar wind speed. Solar wind density just below 6 protons per cubic centimeter. NOAA did issue alert for a KP4 geomagnetic unrest condition. We haven't seen that arrive yet. Let's press refresh. and no geomagnetic unrest at the moment, KP only at 2. Next, a diagram of the solar system will show you the 1-week forecast. New moon comes tomorrow. And there's where things will be on the 7th. We will have a crescent waxing moon. And here's a star chart if you're wondering what's going on above my head. I'm in Lehigh Valley, Pennsylvania. You may see Mars and Venus and Mercury rising ahead of the Sun if you've got a low horizon. The blue line is the galactic plane. The yellow line is the ecliptic, the path the Sun will take across the sky today. And next, our coronal mass ejection watch will be looking at stereo A at Lagrange 5 and the Soho-Lascaux C2 at Lagrange 1, which is on your right, stereo A here on your left. No coronal mass ejections to worry about at the moment. Thanks for tuning in to our second daily space weather video of the day. Make sure you join us for our third. It'll be our bonus feature segment. We also put out a meteorology segment today. In any case, congratulations on realizing the channel exists, and may that solar wind be at your back.